Hi everyone, I'm just preparing this overview again of the written assessment in light of it being due next week. I know we discussed it in your initial week in Trinity, but that was quite a while ago, so I said I'd just run through it again so it's very clear what's required. So this written assessment for the contouring module is a 1,000-word assessment, so it's not that big. It constitutes 30% of your final grade and has a 50% pass fail mark. So the topic of the assessment is around contouring variability. So it fits very nicely in with our contouring module because contouring variability is one of the major sources of inaccuracy in radiation therapy. So that's the statement I've given. I've asked you to discuss this statement and how these inaccuracies can be reduced. But very importantly, it's important to consider this section here. So what I'm expecting you to do within that, discussing that statement, is that you should use your clinical experience and demonstrate understanding and application of your reading. And have a look at the rubrics, as that's going to give a good overview of what level I expect you to be at on the different sections that are going to be marked. So as you know, the assignment is due at midnight on the 14th of December. Submit it through Blackboard, and please don't use your student names. I want student numbers. I think I've submitted your physics assignment through Blackboard, so if anyone has any difficulties and don't know how to do this, please contact me by Wednesday, because I won't be available on Thursday and Friday. I'm in class all day, so please contact me if you can't do that by Wednesday. So just let's have a look at the rubrics now. So you probably have rubrics for every assignment within this MSc. So the rubrics are really useful because they're basically your guide, depending on what grade you want to achieve. So it's important to consider what grade you want to achieve and then looking at the rubrics within that grade. So if you're looking for pass, then these are the objectives you're looking at targeting. So the four main sections that I'm looking at is one, that you critically evaluate the impact of inaccuracies and variation resulting from contouring, using the literature to make informed judgments. So using literature and referencing literature is really important in this assignment. So I want you to critically evaluate the impacts of inaccuracies and variation, and there's lots and lots of papers out there that discuss this. Here are the areas that I'm expecting you to achieve in 50 to 59. Moving on from that, those things carry on throughout the different sections, but there's little add-ons. So to achieve a 50 and 59, but you want to achieve up in the 60s. In addition to this, you need to demonstrate a clear understanding of the practical implications of contouring inaccuracies and variations in treatment process. Again, moving up, what I'm expecting to look at is evidence more vigorously, interactions in the literature, and your opinions and appraisals on the impact of contouring. I also wanted to show a clear sense of the impacts on the treatment process, literature from a wide source of journals, and using them effectively rather than just throwing them in for the sake of it. If you're looking for between 80 and 100% in this section, it will be important that you have a very clear awareness of the impact of contouring. So it's not just enough to demonstrate it, I need you to show me an awareness of the impact of contouring, underpinning with the details and vigorous interactions, again with the literature, leads to logical and justifiable conclusions or solutions. Probably in this case it's more solutions really than conclusions, and effectively integrate other aspects of the assignment. So it's looking at all these other sections as well when you're actually looking at the critically evaluating the impact of the assignment. Moving down to the next criteria for marking is to reflect critically on and make judgments about the strategy used to improve contouring inaccuracies and variation. So there is wide amount of different strategies looking at how we can reduce inaccuracies and variations and improve our contouring. So it looks at both inter and intra contouring variabilities. So again, if you're looking for a pass, so a 50 to 59, I want you to describe some strategies and explain them, making judgments about the key positive and negative impacts of the various strategies. Some judgments can be made, and you need to support your judgments with evidence. We're looking for a higher grade. Strategies are appraised in the relevant context, so it's looking at the context which those strategies were implemented and appraising them within that context. Demonstrate a clear awareness of the practical implications of these strategies. So if you were to implement these strategies, what are the practical resources and implications for doing that? Make judgments on the wider impact of these and support with evidence. So you're talking about the practical implications of it, but what are the wider resource implications that are required to implement these strategies? Looking for a higher grade again. I want evidence, again, more vigorously interaction with the literature to support a well-developed appraisal of the strategy for both practice at a local and a wider level. Clearly the impact of strategies discussed on the treatment process. Advantages and disadvantages of these strategies are appraised in detail, so it's not just enough to give the advantages and disadvantages, they need to be appraised in detail. And again, literature from a wide range of sources. If we're looking for the higher range, up to 100%, what I expect you to achieve is a very detailed appraisal of the relevant strategies. So it's not just looking at all strategies, it's pulling out relevant strategies and to be appraised in detail with full consideration given for their advantages and limitations. Again, supported through a wide range of the literature, and then also a very clear awareness of the implications for practice and the service at all levels for implementing these strategies, and full consideration of relevant aspects within a detailed and logical discussion that leads to well supported judgments. So it's looking at the whole project or the assignment as a whole and having this full consideration of what I'm looking for. Moving on to the next criteria for marking. Critically evaluate and make judgments about the published evidence in the context of current and future practices and your own practice. So again, a minimum pass mark of 50. What I'm looking for is relevant material identified from many primary sources. Again, major strengths and weaknesses of the material are identified and explained in a clear way. Some judgment is made about this significance of the literature in the relevant topic. Moving on then to a higher grade. So then moving on to the 60s, relevance and efficacy of the literature more clearly demonstrated. Again, sources are relevant and topical, so you're not sourcing all material should be relevant and topical. Evidence of a critical approach and significance for the literature in the relevant context, again, your own practice and future and current practices. Looking for a higher grade again, it's looking at the highly relevant material and excluding everything else. The strengths and weaknesses of the literature are explored in more detail, so this is actually looking at the papers that are published and their strengths and weaknesses within current and future context and your own practice. Strengths and weaknesses of the literature are explored in more detail and lead to a reasonable comment on the significance of the topic in one's own practice. So it's always about bringing it back to your own practice, then looking at the wider community, the current and future practices that are there. Looking for marks towards the 100%, again, the relevance and efficacy of the published literature is clearly established and very well justified. Links with and to other relevant work are critically explored, adopts a challenging and questioning approach to evaluation and and one's own practice without being critical for the sake of it. I think that's important throughout the assignment, that you're not being critical of the literature or practice for the sake of it. It needs to be well founded and well supported in the literature. Then the final section is much lower weighted, and it looks at how your work is presented, is it referenced properly, and that the style and format you've used is appropriate to the topic. And again, you can see these is about referencing, clear structure, good scientific writing. So that should give you a good kind of overview of what I'm looking for in the assignment based on the different grades. And the big thing is looking at the literature, looking at your own practice, and as the assignment said, it's important that you demonstrate understanding and application of your readings. So again, within your own practice and the wider practice of contouring as a whole, and looking at strategies to reduce the inaccuracies and variability within contouring and how they can be implemented, the impact of them being implemented within clinical practice. If you have any other questions, please email me, but email me well in advance of the deadline, because as I said, I won't be available on Thursday or Friday. Okay, the best of luck.